I'm just at your service now. You just push me, turn me, do whatever you want to.
No, we're
Turn
probably
me, take off.
To get his haircut this morning.
Look at him now.
Yeah, you look me or him.
actually mostly just talk to RC here.
Yeah, they want you to start off by telling how the children were born and start off.
He's gonna record what I said.
Yeah, he already is. So start.
Start off.
Yes.
Start with Rob.
Start with Florence.
Well, my wife eloped to Tennessee to get married. We had no place except the old place that we'd been living up at Ryan, but they wouldn't let her teach again that year, so we had to move. And we rented a little house there from Daddy, a little three-room house where the Hamiltons had to live in that. About 3 months after that, the Weavers said that she could move in or we could move in and live with them at the cater because I would be teaching at Priceville that year. And it was in October that year that my oldest child was born, Florence. And that's...
She was born in Decatur at the Weaver's home.
Oh yeah, the old Weaver's home, 4th Avenue, West, Decatur.
And Grandma Weaver stayed with her while...
Yeah.
Stayed with...
Grandpa Weaver built that house himself. Then he built his son a house right there by it, Jim Weaver, right by it where Aunt Alicia lived. Jim had already been killed in a sawmill accident. He had on high-top boots and stepped over a shaft with a set screw turning and set screw caught on top of his boot and twisted his leg off.
What kind of day was it when Florence was born? What kind of weather did you have when Florence?
Oh, nice October weather. That's two brothers who were sent to Tulane and learned their medicine by Mike Crawford over here. One of them was lived over there oh, you know who they are.
The Roans.
Roan.
Avery Roan.
Avery Roan.
Was her
Omar
doctor.
Avery. And he was a physician. Grandma Weaver, we said something about putting her in the hospital. The child would be going, oh, sir, that's $100, and you need that $100, and I'll take care of her myself. And that's all the help we needed, and Grandma Weaver. And Alicia would come over and help out, and I stayed there to help her too. But that was a 7-room house.
Now, Robert, when was Robert born?
Robert was born up at that old house, but of course, we moved back here to this place from Priceville after 2 years of teaching, you know. We moved back here. And then after a year or two later, Robert was born up there in that old house up there. Not here, we didn't live here now. This house was built all that. That old house up there is gone now. There's a big oak tree up there. That's where Robert was born. And the doctor was Dr. Russell, Tom Russell. And I didn't contract with him until about a month beforehand, and he asked what wife want to take the case. He said, I usually have a case like this throughout the pregnancy, but he took it, and he came on September 25th, and he was born without any trouble whatever up there. But the well had gone dry, and I had to haul water from the creek to wash the clothes and everything, and haul water from spring around here where Marty lived for drink. But I finally got better water than that. That would get muddy when we stirred it up. But I go down to John's place, and there's a pump there that I can fill up my 3 gasoline cans, you know, 5-gallon cans, and that was the drinking water and cooking water we had. I'd go back the next night and get it. I drove the horses to the creek and hauled back the barrel of water for my child, for Grandma Weaver to wash clothes, scrub the floor, whatever she wanted to do with it. A whole barrel full of water. That child drank nearly half of that barrel in a day. That was every day that I did that. So we were hit by poverty at that time, and another way, But it wasn't poverty at all. There's somebody to take care of us, helped us. And Robert was born up there. Grandma Weaver, though, was again going to be the only one. She didn't want nobody else playing around with her granddaughter. But I came in from somewhere around the place here, and Ruby called my attention to the fact that grandmother was out there pushing rocks around with a crowbar, wrecking bar, and said there's something wrong. She needs help bad. And Uncle Albert was running a sawmill up on top of the mountain up there where Whitaker lives, and I jumped in the car and went up there and got him, brought him back down here. And he looked at her too. He said, she does need help. Says, she's not at herself at all. And he called Jim Gurley, who lived right over there. That was her brother, Grandma Weaver's brother. He came over and he said, yes, she needs help. And he called Mike Crawford over there. They had telephones here and there now. From their house, not from this one, not that and up there. But Jim Gurley's and McInerney's and all these other people had to them. They called them, and somebody went and got Molly Crawford. Mike Crawford's wife was Grandma Weaver's sister, and they had lots of money, of course. 1,000 or 1,500 acres of land over there, and mortgage on them more than that they loaned to people, you know. But all of them, not had, she had to have help. Said, well, we'll wait till tomorrow, and Albert said, I'll call her daughter down to Black Belt, you know, where they had that 24-acre plant, Black Belt cattle farm down there, dairy farm. And
He called Martha and Pearson Compton.
yes, that's, her husband he didn't have anything much, but Martha was, he'd already made a will that 24 acres would go to that son, that brother who was living with him, and their daughter.
That was a real dry year, 25, wasn't it? That's about the driest year we've ever had. Wasn't 1925 about the driest year that?
Yes.
About the driest year you ever had here?
Yes.
Creek dried up.
Huh?
The creek pretty much dried up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't the creek dry?
Creek went completely dry.
Didn't run. Yeah.
Just hose. I could walk out on a log down there and dip up a barrel of water that creek and bring it out and pour it in a barrel. It was fairly clear, those pools were, and it wasn't muddy water at all. But that was troublesome time. No conveniences, no electricity, no running water, and I tell you.
Only water was what you hauled in.
Yeah.
Okay, then skip on down to when I was born.
Jimmy Compton down there, who was a brother to Martha's husband, said, I don't know what it ever said, that Caroline, that was his son's daughter, you know. Grandmother spent her last days in the insane asylum, so you send her down here. There's 14 black families on this farm, and we'll somehow take care of her. And they did for 2 years. She died. They brought back to Decatur. Funeral held in a home, old home there in Decatur, and brought without a funeral here at Blue Springs, and buried right there where Ruby was buried, where her grandfather and grandmother buried, and where our little daughter is buried.
Skip on down now to when I was born.
Who?
When I was born.
Were you?
Yeah, when I was born, 1927.
Well, 1927, see, when Florence died here, and we had a big field of cotton over there, and I had hands hoeing cotton that June day, but she died that day. And Ruby was so shocked by the whole conditions and the poor little house we was living in that she just didn't want to live there anymore, you know. And we moved to Sunny Grove. The superintendent offered me the job of 2 teacher school at Sunny Grove, and a good house to live in. It was a good house, a whole lot better than that old house up there. And 3-room house, well right in there, and one end of the porch up there. Now, it wasn't exactly like a water system, but that's, and Robert kept hammering away. He told Uncle Ed to hammer, because he had a shop over there. he could see him hammer that metal, you know, he taught him that. And we moved that fall away from there to the, what they call it, dormitory.
Teachers.
Boys dormitory at Ryan School. It was a six room dormitory. And in the second room, down the hall there, was where you were born, in that dormitory. No other people living there then, except Ruby and me. And, you know, Miss Cora McAnally. Miss Cora McAnally had married, but anyway, her husband is dead. I heard her for 2 weeks to come and stay. And she was sort of worried about Robert running off, and he was running toddler around there then. She bought a 2-foot-high box that she kept her kids in. If she stayed him over in there, I'd pay much attention to him for an hour or two and take care of Ruby. But that was 2 weeks that she stayed with us. I paid her pretty good. She wanted $50 a week. I gave her that $100. She needed it, all right.
Who was the doctor that time?
Well, he was one of the doctor at Arab.
Dr. Crawford or Dr. Barnard?
What, huh?
Was it Dr. Crawford probably?
It wasn't Dr. Crawford, it was
Dr.
Dr.
Barnard.
Barnard.
Dr. Barnard.
Dr. Barnard is, no, Dr. Hines.
Dr.
Pardon
Hines.
me, Dr. Will Hines. But anyway, there's 2 brothers out there were doctors, you know. But that was the one. And I was,
Is it slow?
told him I got a message up that we needed help right then from Miss Cora staying there before. And he said, oh, those things don't happen that fast. I'll be there in a few minutes. But when he got there, he ought to have been there 15 minutes sooner, you know, but you were already in the process of being born at that time. But he did a good job of taking care of you. And we still stayed on there 2 years and lived in that dormitory, no rent. I never paid rent on the house as long as I taught it right.
Was that a cold day or December or what?
Well, no, not just ordinary weather.
How much did it cost for a doctor back then?
Well, $25 was the standard, but depended on some other circumstances, of course. The longer it took, the longer he's away from the office and so on, made a difference. Never more than 50 though. I remember paying him $40. $40 when he was born. Well, then it came, Mr. Woodruff went into the superintendent's office. I left the old schoolhouse where Mr. Woodruff lived and where Eunice and I had bats in 2 rooms back there when I first went there to teach. So we moved into, we called it the principal's home at that time, you know. I moved into the principal's home, and it was in that big room. It was a 2-room school, they called it the kitchen, the small first, second, and third grade, and L. The big room was divided into 3 bedrooms. And that bedroom now is where Eunice was born. And Pensy Hip.
That's where Nell was born.
That's where Nell was born.
Right. And Pensy came to.
Pensy, her husband was dead. She had married a light, and I paid her. But she didn't want me to pay anything because she expected a gift of some other kind, but I did pay her. But it's cheaper than hiring a regular nurse, of course. I think I paid her about $20.
Now when was that? That's November the 30th. Nell was born.
Oh yes, oh yes.
November the 30th,
November the
1930.
November the 30th.
1930.
Yeah, Eunice's birthday was 18th.
Yeah. Nell was born on the 1930 November. What kind of weather did you have that day?
What?
What kind of weather was it when Nell was born?
Well, I do know we had to have fire.
Yeah. Nothing unusual about the weather then.
November. But it was usually sunny weather. That was the one winter that I know of. We picked butter beans and tomatoes in the garden that I rented down there at Christmas week. It wasn't that cold now.
Who was the doctor that time?
That time it was Dr. Crawford.
Dr. Clark.
Dr. Crawford just come back out of medical school, and I saw him quickly we knew that she'd be having a child. And I said, doctor, I may not have the money they're paying me irregularly. I get a check if I have it every month, but if I don't have it, they give me a slip stating that they'd pay me 2 years from now with 8% interest. I said, now I might not have it. He said, you're supposed to find it in a case like this. He said, now, you got plenty of time. So I found it somehow. But he was there. Princess stayed with us. Well, that wound up that. But the next time, Dr. Crawford gone to Arab and established a little hospital upstairs above his.
When Moss Sue was born
Had a bus through
in Greasy Cove.
upstairs. And
No, Moss Sue was born in Greasy Cove, wasn't she?
Moss Sue was born in Greasy Cove.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Moss Sue born over there. I'd gone to Eva to teach from Ryan, and they'd promised me. It looked like a good thing. I could live on that old farm in Greasy Cove. Next year, I had it rented right then. I couldn't move in that then, but I could move a renter out and live there next year. And I thought I might stay 2 or 3 years at Eva. Got up there and President Kennedy went in office, and everything went bad. And I had to move 3 times. Houses had burned down up there for the insurance money so they could live on it. I had to move 3 times up there. But then finally a man told me I had to move, couldn't stay up Eva anymore. We built a 2-room house down in Greasy Cove, but we were lucky. Drew Woodard had moved in without asking to and set a sawmill down on that branch down there, just beyond that old barn. And he agreed to saw for $3 a thousand all the lumber I needed to build that house. And said, I wait till you get ready to pay me, so you don't have to pay today. And the 2 men on the farm said, we'll cut those big pine trees up there and haul them down there and put them, and you don't have to pay us till next summer, and you can pay us back with a day's work for every day's work we do for you. But I had to have some money to buy something or another to build it. So I began to figure it out, and I took one of those warrants to Mr. Odin up there even before I left, while I was still living there. Showed it to him, he said, no, what's that thing? He said, well, I'll tell you what I will do. I'll tell you what we've got in here in the cupboard on the credit, which is groceries and overalls and shoes and a few things like that on the credit for 2 years till that comes due, and promise you that I'll not try to collect it for that 2 years. That's how broke I was. But I had to have some money somewhere, and I went back to Floyd Oliver over there at Huleco. The bank at Eva,
Bank at Arab hadn't gone.
Arab, the bank of Arab, hadn't gone into that wild shipping money to the north for the stock exchange, to try to make money. And it was in good shape, and his money was in good shape. And I showed him one of those warrants, and he looked at it and said, about 8% of this? I said, yes. He just reached back in that hip pocket there and got that old long bill fold and began to count out that $132. I said, I expect you to discount it at least 10%. He said, that 8% is already all this man wants in this damn time. And that's all he paid. But I went back home over there in the Greasy Cove and got in that old car of mine. It was open, and I could just load up a whole lot of stuff between the seats, the front and back, stacked some of it in the trunk. I went to John D. Walker's in Decatur, nobody else would sell me. They didn't want to sell this stuff in the store to me at all. But John D. Walker looked at me and don't want to sell. Looked at me and said, you got any money? I said, I got a $20 bill here. Oh my, they just stacked up 2 cages of nails, 2 doors, 3 doors, 4 windows, a roll of screen wire, and enough tacks to tack those screens over the windows, enough, and so on. Everything I needed to roof that house, too. I had to have a roof in there. He handed me back $5 bill, said, now that'll pay your way home. So I appreciated that. That's how broke I was. But we got back up there, those fellas living on the farm. agreed they'd help me build it and not charge me until I had time to pay them back for a day's work for every day they worked for me. And in 1 week, we had that house ready to move in.
Moved in it, and that's where she was born, right?
Yeah,
Masu was born in that
yeah,
house.
yeah,
That was in August.
yeah, that was in August.
What day?
And Aunt Bertha Gurley and Miss Black living up in that old house right up there where that big tree is. Aunt Bertha walked around by Rut Creek Road there and up to where we lived to see Ruby and the baby. That's how broke that were. I didn't want that broke hardly. No, my Jim wasn't that broke either hardly, but they decided they'd walk and not get somebody to haul them. But I did have enough gasoline to bring them back home.
How did you get the doctor there that day?
Huh?
How did the doctor get there?
Oh, well, I started to tell you that 11 degrees of cold, and those roads were not rocked or paved at that time. Now, if they're as good as they are now, I'd have lived there when I taught over here. But they graded that road and it was muddy, heavy rain the night before. And I started out to, didn't have a telephone on there. I had to start out to at least get back over here to the telephones to call him. But I just thought I'd go on and get him. And I drove across muddy, but I got out there to the road, the Rock Creek Road. I turned and came back and got on this paved road. And I got to Huleko, but I started to go to Arab, and that road had been graded. And I started and I got out there about a quarter of a mile, and the drag light pulled off in that mud, and I had to crawl out of that car and fasten that drag light on again with wire and so on, and drive on to Arab. I called Dr. Grufford. I said, Doctor, that road's so muddy, I don't think I can get there, but it needs you bad over there. He said, oh, I taught school in that place 2 or 3 years ago before I went to medical school. I know every road over there. He went and said, I'll go to Fairview and come back to Eva. And right down that hill there, into there, and I won't be on any muddy roads. See, I know those roads. Said, I'll be there in an hour. But he got back there before I did. And that's when she was born. That's how much trouble we had. But
It was a rainy day then.
the woman who helped take care of her, of course, was Mooney. Elzora Mooney, but she lived on a farm that's 150, 300 yards down there.
Will Mooney's wife.
Huh?
Will
Will
Mooney.
Mooney? Will
Wife.
Mooney's wife. And she had a couple of sisters, one of them sister, strong, healthy one, still living at home right up above us. She came and helped her out too with what she was doing there.
What'd you do with Robert and R.C. and Nell?
During that time,
Yeah, while
they went down to Mooney's house.
we went down there?
Yeah. You went right down there to Mooney's house. And when the weather was going, they brought you up there to see. That's how poverty were. But we went, while we were there, in that house, no place to go. I'd already been told that they could hire 2 teachers for what they were paying me, and I told them to go ahead and hire them. That would be injustice to the students up there to pay their money for 1 teacher when they could get 2. That was a nice way of telling me goodbye, of course. But he had done me a good favor over there. I didn't have a college degree, but I had to have a certificate to teach the science in the high school. And I had a college credit in biology, physics, but not in chemistry. But I could do that later, and I got it at that chemistry at Athens College the next year or 2. But that got me a certificate that I could teach in high school anywhere in the state in that field. And in that way, Mr. Sherrod, he would help me out. So he was telling me that he could hire 2 instead of me was not, well, in other words, he and his wife were one of the 4 teachers that kept on, 5 teachers for that senior class to graduate. Mr. Sherrod and his wife and a vocational agriculture teacher, vocational home ec teacher, and a doctor who had moved to Coleman's sister, who had built that big house right up there above the town, and there was a medical doctor there. They just couldn't afford to and helped build a school. He put a lot of money in building a school.
Do you remember what Grandpa, your daddy, said when we went down and told him about Moss Sioux?
Who?
You remember what Grandpa, your daddy, said when we told him about Moss Sioux? He wanted to know how much the doctor charged.
Yeah. You want to know how much the doctor?
Charged, we told him
Oh,
$35, $40, whatever.
well,
And he said, you didn't cost but $5
yeah,
when you were born.
yeah.
He said, babies are going up. Do you remember that? He said, costing more to get babies, but they ought to know what they cost now. Then come on up to when Betty Jo was born. Tell
Hey,
us.
Joe.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Crawford, by that time, he and Dr. Barnard had established a little upstairs, 5-room, 5-bed hospital above the drugstore. And I talked to Dr. Crawford about coming to where we lived. He said, now this hospital is here mostly for this type of case, and you put it here a week beforehand, and we can hasten up the coming of the birth slightly with a certain medication. But that's about the time. He knew we had already had him all the time during the early pregnancy, and that's what he did. And so at early delivery, for some reason or other, she had a little trouble as the doctor had gone up back to his home. She had a little trouble somewhere, I don't know what it was, and that nurse grabbed that telephone and called him to get back down there quick. And he came in flying in that car down and just skidded around in the street and up that stairs in a minute or two. He knew exactly what to do to get her over that little trouble. But it seemed like it saved her life right there, the way we thought about it. But you know, some little trouble, she couldn't breathe very good, you know, I don't know what it was. But he knew what to do. But anyway, that was...
Betty Jo wasn't a very big baby, was she? How much did Betty Jo weigh? Do you remember?
I don't know. I don't know whether they weighed her or not, but I'm sure they did. That's always doctors for now. Eunice was a 12-pound girl. That's my sister. I remember that. And I was...
Betty Jo didn't weigh but about 4 pounds.
Huh?
Betty Jo didn't weigh but about 4 or 5 pounds.
That's
She was
right.
real small.
Very small. Early birth, of course, made her small. She was very small, that's right. But anyway, they took real good care of her.
What?
See if you remember something.
And in that same hospital up there now, we were still broke. When you had appendicitis, and I took you up there. Well, you got over the first spell. Dr. Crawford said, "I'll happen again. You just well have it done right now." But we waited till the next attack hits you. And he and Dr. Bonnet operated on you in that upstairs room in that hospital. They didn't have the cash for that immediately. Any other hospital, they wanted the cash. And they could wait till the December check came in, which was a few days later than your birth, of course. And my December check had come just before Christmas. I simply broke all that time.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize what it means to be broke all the time.
Betty Jo said, can you remember anything funny that happened with the kids?
Anything else?
Anything funny that happened with the...
Oh, yes. I remember you were running around there when they should have put on a play in the old school at Ryan. And
Go ahead.
R.C. was running around up and down there. Buck Thompson was filling up gasoline lamps to light the auditorium. Gasoline lanterns to light the auditorium that night. Without turning off those mantles and that lamp, he was pouring gasoline into that hole. And that stuff exploded right there. It went on your leg. Buck Thompson jumped off of the stage up there and ran down there and wrapped his coat around you and smothered out that gasoline flames on you. Kept you from being burned worse than you were, but it burned your leg. Below your knee, I believe. You still have that scar?
Yes. Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah. Well, that was the main thing there. But in that case there, I took you to myself to the hospital. I drove as quick as I could drive out there with you. I know the pain was terrible, and you started crying. I told you not to cry. We beat the doctor up for that. That's silly, wasn't it? Telling the kid not to cry when he was burning so bad he couldn't take it. But you didn't cry. We went up there.
Do you remember the time that Mama got so excited that Robert was up on the scaffolds at the ball
Oh,
at the auditorium at Ryan?
oh yes. Seals are a good player, man.
Noise seals.
Noise Seals. Went on for the University of Alabama and was center on the University of Alabama's basketball team. But he's looking around there, and I see Robert was interested in that roof going up, and that scaffold up there with those beams up there for the roof, scaffold all in there, and I just got him and walked up there, right there was Robert walking along that scaffold 50 feet up and up there. Ruby just had her foot. Get him down from there, get him down there. But,
How old would he have been then, do you think?
huh?
How old was he then?
Oh, well,
8 or 9?
he's big enough so they could walk around up there. I don't know whether he's gone to school then or not, probably had. Let's see. Oh, yeah, yeah, yes. We'd already gone back to Ryan for about the third time at least. They called me back 3 times to be principal at Ryan, 4 times. Wanted me to stay on the last time, but they didn't really want me because I'd been invited to, when I was living in Greasy Cove, to already take this job here to take Mr. Woodruff transferred me himself.
You remember the time that Robert and me were sitting out on that well at Ryan?
Yeah.
And with our feet hanging off of in the well. Me and Robert were sitting up on the well at Ryan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I remember that.
And Mama almost had a fit about that, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, down in the backyard,
Doug well.
Doug well, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a wonder. Well,
We were sitting up there dangling our feet over in the...
the feet hanging off in there. Oh, there wasn't enough water to drown you hardly down in there, but it would have been a hard time to stand up down in there, and by the time you fell that 16 feet to that rock below, you'd been hurt, so you couldn't stand up. By the time we got you out, you might have been drowning in that little bit of water, about 2 feet of water in that well, maybe a little over. That's how little water was. That well, we used it until they got the water system there, much years later. Well, right there, I remember after Ruby lost her ability to drive, she decided she'd move the car one day, and she just drove it across the walk right up against that curb of that well. And I could see then it wouldn't be safe for her to drive anymore, but I believe Rachel told us about how they went back to Greasy Cove, and Ruby got lost in Greasy Cove. First she knew everything about driving over there, Well, poor thing. I don't see how she took so many breaks, and her natural way she's raised up with water and electricity and a good home, to come and live in the shacks we lived in and do all the hardships that happened to us. I don't see how she lasted as long as she did. Those things will break you finally. It took a long time to break her, but it did finally break her. I remember when you graduated from Auburn, coming back, a definite sign that she thought she was breaking. Now, when a person thinks that, you're out of shape trying to doctor them. She thought we were on the way with her to a nursing home or an asylum or something like that. And she began to cry. She didn't want to go there. Coming back from your graduation at Auburn, you didn't know that. You remember that?
Don't remember
No,
that.
Robert was the one that, Robert went with us over that. That's right.
Robert,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sure.
a lot of people, I'm proud, very proud that a lot of people have taken had enough confidence in me to sort of help me a little along the line. Pauline recommended one that if she hadn't helped me when Ruby first went down and worked there those years, I wouldn't have taught long enough to draw the Social Security and other pension that I'm drawing right now. Got a little notice on it. Betty Joe said he got a little notice I'd get a Social Security increase.
Right, yeah.
You get that too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got
I guess everybody gets about the same increase. Depends on what you have getting already.
Yeah, it's a percentage. It's a percentage increase.
Yeah.
You want anything else? Yeah, he'll let it out all of a lot of it. You want him to talk about anything else?
Anyway, the increases that I'm getting right now, Ruby and I would have been tickled to death to have had that $2 a day coming in. That's what it is, about $2 a day, you know.
You remember the first radio you got?
Oh, first radio?
Yeah, that
Well,
you
the
bought.
First radio, I didn't own the first radio. I saw Mr. Woodruff put it together with the crystals, you know, on the, and he around over crystals sat there, and when Eunice and I were boarding in that old house. Then I went to Decatur to visit Mr. Woodruff down there. Later, I saw a good television set, and also the radio was, I bought the radio from Sid Roebuck, and when I was living in Greasy Cove up there, I had a good radio. I could pick up St. Louis, wasn't it?
Nashville and St. Louis, and
Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville, and so on. And good radio. When I was living in Greasy Cove, and when I came back from Eva, I got it almost then. I remember living in that, we already made it to about a 5-room house then, Homer and Flossie, and one of the renters on the place I was going to go to a big singing, and they stopped by and our radio was going, and they said, well, we hear more right here, and we don't want to get outside. I told them, and I believe where they were going to hear. But we did have a good radio, and after we moved on, 3 batteries. You understand, it wasn't electric like this. 3 batteries, 1 little battery, so many cells, and 2 big batteries, so many cells, about, smaller cells fastened together, I guess a dozen, something like that. Give you the power you needed to pick it up. And you didn't have to have a very high-fast radio or disc or anything like that to get it. It just came in over the air, just picked it up. And that's all we had. So after Ryan's Cross Roads, when we, well, a long time after that, the community gave me a television set. I'd seen them before, but we didn't own one. And DeWitt Tuffer's wife and his daughter came over there to see her. And I was changing stations from one to another. Ruby said, let us stay on one station, let them watch one program. I just showed them how many stations we could get, you know, showed it off. But DeWitt got one right after that, you know.
When did you see your first car? When was the first car you ever?
Huh?
The first
The
car.
first car was a long time ago when I was about, let's see, 15 years old, we'll say. I moved to the valley here. When I was 10 years old, I drove 3 head of cattle right along that old road, turned by what the fire hall is there now, across that creek down there up to Landtown. There's 2 wagons that we met that day as we came. 3 wagons were bringing my family stuff to that old house over there. But Daddy was been the auctioneer at that, when Sanders moved away, and he'd bought a big old range stove. Just told Mr. Sanders, just leave it sitting there, I'll just pay you for it. And we had that, and Mother's already there and had a breakfast, meal cooked for us when we got there with the cows. But he bought also an organ for him. He told him to leave that organ there, but I won't have the money to pay you in this 2 days if you pay me for this auctioneer. It won't be enough. I said, well, just give me a note and pay me next year at the end of the year. And he bought that organ on a credit. But he'd already borrowed $450 on that little mountain place up there for Mike Crawford to pay cash down on 150 acres in land time. But that was a good deal. $3 an acre for that good land, cash paid in advance. That was a good deal. Daddy planted 10 acres right across the road from that house where Jim live now down through that. Look, Stuart for that. 10 acres. Uncle Lum had 11 acres back down this other way towards the old Levin's place. Uncle Mont had 5 acres of good fertile land right over my little old barn that was over there in the field. And Daddy made 11 bales of cotton with that in the fertilizer on that 10 acres. Uncle Lum he had 15 acres, he made 13 bales. Uncle Mont made 7 bales on 5 acres. That's how much cotton they made, $3 an acre for that kind of land. That's what they paid.
Rent.
And it was lucky, but it wouldn't last forever because land was going to come back 3 years later. They sold out their big store business in Coleman, came back in the spring. They would have enjoyed buying Daddy's rent out, but he didn't find any place to move. So they just lived in a little old wooden shack called the Esau home, a nigger slave's home across the road over there, and a big old store. They divided that store in about 4 or 5 rooms. And we lived in their big house until January that year, till our rent ran out. And Liesl and Maud were Lon Land's 2 daughters. And Lon Mays had been well drillers, and they'd worked together, but Lon died of dengue fever, and those 2 children were living with their mother in Birmingham. So they came and lived with Mr. and Miss Lynn there, and that's when I learned to be close friends with them. We had a big old rope swing on an elm tree there. They'd swing in it, and I'd push them, and they'd push me, and we could pump to go way up too, you know. But anyway, we learned to fish and hunt and play around together with them. And Lisa's still living, but Maud was dead. Maud married young Whistanger. He moved back to Decatur, to Birmingham. He was a Lila valve cream separator later, but Lisa married Elise, and her 2 sons live right there, close to her right there now. But now, that's the story that so we finally bought this place here. When I was transferred to Cateco, I started to come out that rain that night before, and it was muddy. Creek was no bridge over that little old creek down there, but I knew it had a rock bottom, so I drove on down there and got across it, but got started out there a little bit further and got stuck. I had a man Tanner over at that barn. Actually, I looked up, and he came with his old mule and a single tree and a chain, and he backed that old mule up and cussing it all the time and fastened it to my car. Pulled me out of that to that next branch over there where it's solid rock, where I could get on the road and move on back to go to Staco to teach. He knew I needed to get over there, you know. He might not have done it. Said, I thought I'd help you out to get to your job, and I started to pull out my purse and pay me. Hell, you don't think I'd work for money on a day like this, do you? I said, no. I said, no, but if it's just doing it for friendship, I'd try to be your friend from now on. Mr. Tanner, one of his sons, his only son, he had 1 son, finally came back to be a preacher there at Rock Creek. The old man walked down, he's running a revival, he walked down the hall and saw in the church there, he gave up his liquor and cussing. He never did do that no more. But he was bad at that. Now, he had a brother over there that had all those daughters that taught school, you know. And one of them built a house up there on the road right close to where the Hamiltons lived.
You moved a whole lot. Did you ever have anything funny happen when you moved?
Huh?
with all the times you moved, did anything funny happen on any of the moves? Oh, you're moving around. You had to move before.
Moving from place to place?
Yeah. Did anything unusual?
Oh, yes. We lost the bed springs moving out of Greasy Cove to go over here to Cateco. I had hired a truck to move us, and I left that morning. Will Mooney and another hand, and I said, now you help them to load and try everything on good. And I started, I believe it was Robert, but to drive the cows. He did, yeah, he drove the cows. And I said, I'll take Ruby on over there, and we already had the stove set up over there to cook on. Tried it the night before. And we had, anyway, two stoves. We had a casting stove and another kind of. And Robert came in, he had to do it out his desk. Ruby didn't get there. Ruby got down at that store. Somebody, for some reason or other, got out there and got to playing around with that carburetor and took the carburetor apart and took the float needle out and laid it on top of the truck. And of course it wasn't on after that. And I got home from school and somebody brought me over there. As quick as I looked at it, I knew what to do. I fixed it. We got her home then. But we didn't find those springs that evening. That truck went back twice that day to see if they could find them. But somebody had seen them pull off over there next to that church and drug them down there to the church and notified us that they were there. And the next day they did go back and get them and bring us to it. But we slept on the floor that night over there at Kentucky, that first night we were over there. And that was an experience. I didn't have it at Jones coaching. I coached on outdoor court and had to haul the team up till, they said they didn't have it ready by January the 1st. Really by Christmas, what they said. If I'd haul the teams, make the schedule and haul them, we'd have our home games, return games, and that drill when it was finished. Well, I showed up there the first week, all those games supposed to come back and play, and the gym wasn't finished. But we did have rooms finished where we could teach in them, and I was teaching in a room in the auditorium wasn't finished, the floor wasn't done. But that contractor came and said, I have hands that are nailing down that floor, and I've got enough hands in there to have that nailed down. Today it'll be finished. But if you come in there, as they finish some part of it there, we'll mark off those lines and paint them. And they'll be dry. When they finish the last over there, we'll paint that, all those lines. And I put on my overalls and I did that. And I helped them. I took the book, and made him his tape too. He just gave up his supervisor in those hands and did that. And we marked it off and got ready to put up the goals. I had them ready. And I had to stick the 2x6s up to the ceiling and fasten them to the rafters way up there, And they pushed those up there. They had a scaffolding there to do that. And got ready to play. And that is Friday night then. That was Friday morning when I got everything done and notified everybody that come on, we'll play you Friday and Saturday. Friday night there were 5 games and I asked Mr. Holliday, I said, how much are you going to charge people? 10 cents. I want them to get used to coming here. I want them to see what it looks like. I want them to see it. And that's what they said. But in the meantime, though, he had bought some uniforms on the credit. The school had the credit, of course, but I didn't have to pay for those uniforms. He didn't pay for them, but I did have to pay for gasoline to all those boys, to all those places for 6 months, 5 months, 4 months and a half. I don't see how I got by at all with a little salary I was making. My salary then was a little more than $132. It had gone to $135 a month. That's what I got all the rest of the years I taught at Kentucky. But I had to pay rent over there. I wouldn't have had to pay that at Ryan if I'd stayed on the Ryan.
Do you remember the trip to Danville with the ball team back earlier than that, back in the...
Huh?
Do you remember going to Danville with Noe Seals and Hoyt Briscoe and that bunch a long time ago?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How the road was then?
Yeah, they were on the team that came down there. They played the last game that night, and our team had already played the first game. And then we had to play Austinville the last game that night. And they played their hearts out, and Penny beat us, of course, just a few points. But they finally beat Austinville. The second game of the tournament, that night. Oh,
I was talking about the night back long before that when you went to Danville on the muddy road.
Oh, the muddy road?
Going to Danville, do you?
Oh, that is when I was riding doing my own coaching when I was first out there. And I started with them to go to Danville. First got to Danville, stopped and fed the boys a meal on, it was playing on Saturday, playing on outdoor court. We were supposed to be there at 2 o'clock. And it took us every bit of that from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock to make that road from Hartford to Danville. And we ran and played, and we beat Danville that day.
How come it took so long?
Huh?
How come it took so long? Why did it take so long?
Muddy.
Muddy?
Oh, the muddy was muddy road. Water paved it all
You had to
around.
get out and push a whole lot.
No, I had to get out and push it, yeah. But- But that first game now is one that you might be interested in. The first game that before we went there, the first game was, we played a little old team over there in Coleman County, just a junior high team, just give them a little practice on Friday, and we'd go to Danville on Saturday.
I don't know how to do that.
Well, we got back home from that little game over there, that toward Coleman County, that little junior high team over there. Mr. Duckoffer picked up the phone and said, well, Cecil can't go with you tomorrow. He didn't tell me he was going to go over there this evening. I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford, I thought he was on the team, and I didn't have to tell him. About that time, and John Green picked up the phone and said, Horace can't go tomorrow. He and Mr. Crawford, neighbors, they talked it over again. Horace can't go with you tomorrow. He didn't tell me he was going to go over there this evening, and I need him here at home. I said, but I'm sorry. There's two of my team. I told Mr. Woodruff, I said, I'll see if I can pick up some second team boys around here, fill in for those two. And Seals, Daddy, didn't tell him. He wouldn't have cared if he never did play another ball game. But he didn't call me. So Seals stayed at home. And because Daddy made him, that's three that I had to replace. But Lige Dunmore was one of them that I picked up at a party up there. I said, Lige, you play pretty good basketball. You'd like to go to Dunmore? Yeah, I'd like to go. I picked up another than the two. But anyway, we got enough to get to Danville, just had enough to play. Well, I was sitting down on little old benches all around that outdoor court. Lige Dunmore jumped high enough to get that ball off that board till I could see the bottom of it under his shoes like that. Me sitting down on that bench. Oh, he really did play. We got back to Ryan Sunday, and they all were standing around, and those three boys that didn't go in, long face. You beat them? Yes, we managed to beat them last night. I'm sorry, boys, you couldn't go. But your daddy said you couldn't go, and that's it. I said, I guess that's it for you. You mean we can't play anymore? I said, your daddy said you're asked to go, and I said, I'm not going to hunt them up and beg them to go every night. I said, if you're not on the team, we'll just leave you off. At their request, I said, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting you off. Your daddy's doing it. About that time I got home, I had a telephone rang. Joe Crawford called. I was wrong about that. Said next, any other time you want to play, you don't have to ask if Cecil can go. If he's on a team, just take him on. Well, Horace Green's daddy said the same thing a few minutes later, and they were back on a team, of course. But Seals had stayed over just because his daddy demanded it, but he didn't call me. but I put seals back on it. That's toad seals. Claim seals. It's about as good as Tobe, though. Tobe went on playing 3 years at the University of Alabama center. But he was tall and a good player. Now, we had a good team that year. We got beat twice. We got to the little old team over there, and Marshall County beat us. They beat us. Well, that's it. That's all you want to hear?